Welcome everybody to Shuttle Sunday, the latest episode. This is recorded, so unlike a Raptor side on Starbase Live or other things like that, we will be mentioning people and giving questions, taking questions and answering them best we can, make it interactive. But at the same time, we are trying to make sure we don't ramble, especially me, ramble too much because it is a recorded video. People watching it back, me thinking, he's talking as if it's live. It is live, we're recording it live. That's the trick. So, we're on to mission 10. Unfortunately, this is where they start changing the mission names to something silly. So I think on that bombshell, we should bring in my special guest, which is Mr. Sawyer Rosenstein. Hello, Sawyer.
Hello, Sawyer. That's I'm gonna do that every time you do that, Chris. Fair warning.
It's fine by me.
uh, Hi everyone. Happy Father's Day to those celebrating. And yeah, this was where STS-10, which fun fact, the actual STS-10 mission later got delayed to the year 1985. So even though this is the 10th mission, it wasn't originally STS-10, but we get STS-41B.
Indeed. And I've been going back through some of the older missions and thinking, how many missions could we fit on a Shuttle Sunday? And it is no more than two. And there will be some which will be one. I think the next Shuttle Sunday will be a dedicated single one because it's Discovery's maiden flight. So we got a lot of baby pictures of Discovery and a lot of preparation pictures and a lot of really big preparations towards her maiden flight. So that'll be next time we do a Shuttle Sunday. It'll be a dedicated one just for Discovery's maiden flight. For this one, we're going to do two missions. I'm thinking there's a lot of content here that we'll probably be looking to get the hour done because we might go a bit over. There's a lot to show here. So let's get off. Let's kick this off with the amazing mission patch for STS-41B, which is this. This is where every single shuttle mission patch, there's a real difference between them. We've seen the SpaceX Starship patches are all like on a theme, the same thing. Unlike our mission patches, which were amazing by Pauline, but the space shuttle program, they really went to town. They did, as we've said every single time, sorry, haven't we? That they always tell a story. And the story here is pretty obvious. It's the main payload and the big event of this mission. Maybe we should talk about that because I can bring up some preparation pictures as we're doing that.
Yeah. So this mission, STS-41B, which I should probably just first quickly mention why they're called 41B. Uh, the 4 is the fiscal year in which the mission was commissioned, so in this case, 1984. The 1 is the fact that it is from Cape Canaveral. The original plan was to have the number 2 for missions out of Slick 6 at Vandenberg, which never happened, so they're all 41, and then B, meaning the second mission plan for fiscal year 84. And you'll see they don't always follow that order in the numbering nicely, so it's nice and fun to have 6 missions flying in 5 and vice versa. But this mission was a satellite deployment mission. Oh yeah, and the first time that we had an astronaut fly untethered away from the space shuttle with the Manned Maneuvering Unit, or MMU.
Absolutely. This is where it gets really fun because this really is, and pardon my just moving across, make it all nice and tidy there. This is where they did a lot of preparation for this because let's face it, this had risk. This had real risk. We've seen all the EVAs on the ISS. The recent one was delayed, but we'll see it soon. I think it's next week they're going to go for it again. Where you always see them tethered. You will always see them tethered. And this one was called the Untethered EVA. And it really was kind of James Bond. It reminded me of Moonraker. The way that they
Yes.
went round on their little laser battles with their special MMUs, which were amazing. And it always reminds me of that. But this is where I did a lot of preparation and training for this because it was such a big deal. I'm going to bring up the next one, which is the launch. We can go to launch. We could actually got a lot of video as well. So I'm going to go through some photographs first. But
By the
beautiful
way,
launch, first and foremost. Yes. Yes, Sawyer.
as great as they did with all the space stuff in Moonraker, that was before the space shuttle ever launched. In 1979 was when it was released.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big
And they nailed
fact
it.
because they did, didn't they? They did a really good job. I mean, you can imagine the production people at James Bond are not um, new people to the job. They knew what they were doing. But wow, they did such a great job in getting a lot of it right. And again, without any kind of like real life experience by that time. So it was an amazing film. I keep watching it. In fact, I'm going to watch it again sometime soon because it is a great movie. These are wonderful photographs here of the launch. You can see that
Oh,
reflection shot. Everyone loves a reflection shot, and that is beautiful, that one.
who
We've got
doesn't?
lots
Look
of
at that.
You will always see me bringing up lots of photographs. Trust me, I'm bringing up the cream of what I've got from L2. Obviously, not all of them are actually exclusive photographs. We've collected them, but a lot of them are like people have taken photographs and donated them and put them into the thing. A lot of people have also scanned actual hard copies of photographs and put them into digital format, which is really cool as well. That is a wonderful photograph as well. There, look at that. That is from the high altitude. That'd probably
Oh,
not be a WB-57. That'd be more like more of the fighter jets that they tend to have
T-38.
across. Yeah, or T-38 indeed. Yeah, but you can actually see that. I love these photographs because it shows a roll program. You can see him leaving the pad and getting onto the trajectory there, which is really cool visual showing it there. And there's 39B next door, 39A there. And wow, they look different today. They look
Yeah.
very different today. So let's go on to other photographs I got here. If I press the right thing, there we go. We go on to the mission itself. This is where it gets really interesting because I've got a lot of photographs here, as you can imagine. I think I'll try and do the payload first. Maybe, Sawyer, you want to talk about this payload that they were deploying there?
Sure. It's time for people to feel old. Remember Western Union? They still exist now doing crypto, but this was Westar 6, which is a Western Union satellite. And in fact, on the mission patch, if you look on the left side where they have the satellite deploy, there are 6 stars. And on the right where they have the MMU, there are 5 stars for the 5 crew members. But yeah, this was going to be the sixth in their constellation of satellites that they had up there. They also had a payload, I believe, for Indonesia, um, Palapa B2. Both were built by Hughes, of course. And problem is, though, that the cam modules, the little assist modules that help boost them up, both malfunctioned. So they ended up in a lower than planned orbit, which they were ending up retrieved. That is for a future Shuttle Sunday.
Indeed. And there's a crew again on orbit, which is always nice to show. A lot of the crew photographs. We've got another one for 39 for 41C, which is really cool photograph because they do that in a kind of. Oh, in fact, I think I've got it for this one. Let's have a look. Here we go. There we go. I always love that because they're in micro G. They can get away with these kind of photographs where they all do like a circle. That is really cool. And of course, let's not forget the best logo, which is the worm. There we
I'm
go.
sorry, what was that?
The best logo, which is the
I, I
worm.
think
We've
you, I think you mispronounced meatball.
No, no, I didn't actually. I'm following the polls, which all agree. Just like Stubby Nozzle is very popular, we find that the the NASA worm. Sorry, I'm going to cause a riot in chat if I'm not careful. But yes, let's get on to what was really. I'm going to go through a lot of photographs here. Some of them not in particular order, but I just like to almost like join them up because this is an iconic photograph here. If I can bring it up, there we go. This is the first time an untethered EVA was done on the MMU. And maybe, sorry, as I go through these photos, 'cause I've got so many of them. You want to talk about the MMU?
Absolutely, yes. This was the manned maneuvering unit, as we kind of mentioned before. So it's basically like a jetpack in a way. Um, it was stowed away in the wall of the payload bay, kind of near the airlock. They would hop inside of it, and they literally had adjustable arms because different astronauts had different arm lengths, so they could move it back and forth. On the ground, it weighed 150 kilos, or about 325 pounds. Obviously, microgravity helps with that. The main propellant was gaseous nitrogen, and that was what was used to propel. So they do small thrusts to kind of go backward and forward, and 24 different thrusters that helped maneuver it. So you could do roll, pitch, yaw, the whole 9 yards, as you probably see from the pictures of the different angles that they end up in.
Can I just point out once again, these photographs are decades old now, and the quality of them is beautiful. You can actually zoom right in here. Look at the old logos: McDonnell Douglas, Western Union, Hughes, and West Star. Is it six? I can't do
Six, yeah.
yeah, Roman numerals. That is beautiful photographs, though. I mean, again, I'm going to go through these. That looks like I found it. I don't know what the story is here, but it looks like a foot restraint's got lost here. Do you know any story about
um,
this? Because I did look for it and I couldn't find any reference to a lost foot restraint, but it looks like it's got loose.
it's a good question. I hadn't seen anything when I was reading up on it, but
I didn't either. I
um,
did. I got the photograph from L2. I thought, oh, that must be a story. Nothing about it. But the photograph is there. That looks like a foot restraint to me. and he looks like it's going for a little orbit itself. We've seen that photograph there. We've seen this one there. These are again. They look like they're in a studio, but they're in space, and they're beautiful photographs. Really clean. This is an amazing picture. This is how far away he got. Let's zoom right in on him.
Unbelievable still.
It looks like a Lego figure's being just thrown out of the payload bay.
If I
It's
recall, it was Hoot Gibson that took the picture, and, the main photos that we typically see like that is Bruce McCandless out there with the MMU. The one of the other crew members, Robert Stewart, also did go out and fly around, but, I mean, Bruce McCandless' shot is the iconic ones.
yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to whiz through these photographs. That could be the foot restraint, by the way, which went missing afterwards. Again, big shout out to the Canadian Space Agency. They were involved with the robotic manipulator system, the RMS or SRMS, if you want to be careful. And the SSRMS is the arm on the space station, and the OBSS, sorry, my acronyms. The orbiter boom sensor system was done by CSA, and there's going to be an arm on the gateway from CSA. MDA's involved with them. Brilliant companies who have been real quiet heroes, especially post Columbia, with these robotic arms, which have been so important to the inspections that followed loss of Columbia on the future missions, the final missions of the space shuttle. Beautiful picture there, the payload bay. Let's bring up
If I
some
recall
more. Yes?
if I recall correctly, I was just reading the one of the new books, the Challenger one that came out. It leads everything up to Challenger, including this spacewalk. And I believe they were telling a story about how uh, Bruce McCandless kind of had some issues in that his beanie cap, the communications cap, was starting to come loose on his chin. So there was a lot of chafing apparently through it, but he didn't want to end the spacewalk, so he kind of gutted it out, and we get these fantastic images.
Really beautiful. Again, this is a good photograph, just to sort of scale of the payload bay. The space
Yeah.
shuttle was a large vehicle. There's no question about it. But again, as we've mentioned on previous Shuttle Sundays, the actual pressurized cabin, shall we say, the flight deck and the mid deck, is not that large. It is mainly a space truck. It's mainly payload bay. It really is
Yep.
quite impressive, and that you can see from this here, the aft windows there. Let's go zoom in. Aft windows there, and then you've got the hatch there, which they came out of, which was also an airlock. And then they're in the work in the payload bay, and that's just the front part of it. So it's really impressive.
It's unbelievable that that payload bay is about the size of a school bus.
Yeah, I've pulled out pictures I found pretty, and there was lots of them. That looks like a single ohms burn. You can see it there firing up. The other one is not. They can
Yeah.
fire at both. They've got the RCS, sorry, reaction control systems, and the veneer jets. So this is a cool photograph. This is where we get onto the IMAX stuff. Look at this. This is like IMAX,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah.
This did have the IMAX camera on board, I believe, to Cinema 360, all of that working together to get that film up there, which IMAX film, by the way, is huge. So to actually have IMAX cameras in there with those giant rolls of 70 millimeter film rolling is impressive. In fact, they had to make a special camera for STS-125 when they did the Hubble service repair mission version of IMAX that Mass got to use. I think that was that one.
Absolutely. This is the photograph I want to bring up because I'm going to do my Chris Flex section before we get onto the Sawyer Flex section of this Shuttle Sunday, and by showing what's on my wall. This is on my wall. I'm literally facing it now. This was an. Oh, by the way, England just scored. That's completely distracted me. Dear Chris, keep up the great work at nasaspaceflight.com. Signed. Oh, it's so beautiful. That will never leave my wall. That is awesome. But of course, I've got Sawyer with me, and you can
I
bet Sawyer's got photographs as well.
Yeah, I kinda do. There, Bruce McCandless the second. I love how he put the second there. Yeah, remember I was talking about Hoot Gibson on this mission? Well, there's me and Hoot, and he is a Hoot. Him and his wife, who's also an astronaut, Rhea Seddon, are both lovely people. Got to have lunch with him, and he has some, crazy stories. He also does, air races, so it was really fun talking with him about how those he thinks are more dangerous than spaceflight.
Really? That's yeah,
Yeah,
again, it's cool stories. It's not just meeting them, it's cool stories. Look at that. There's a
exactly.
cool photograph.
Yep, there he is. Mr. MMU himself, Bruce McCandless. Again, very sweet guy. Took a lot of time to talk with me. Can't say a bad word about him.
I love they got the mission patches. Obviously, there's quite a few astronauts there, and they've all got the mission patches behind them with the name below it. That is cool. I didn't notice that first time
Yeah,
he sent me it. That is
and
very
the
cool.
specific MMU patch too. If you look right above his name,
Yeah.
that's not a mission.
Yes.
That's just the MMU.
That is cool. That is very cool.
Yeah,
Oh, there's got another one here. You saw it. Here we go. Group
yeah,
photograph.
yes. Fun fact: there are three astronauts in this photo. Actually, all of them on the right side of your screen. You've got Jerry Ross, bottom right. You've got Fred Hayes, top right. And then to his left in the blue shirt is from STS-41B, Vance Brand.
Very cool. Right, video time, folks. Well,
Yes.
I went too zoomy out there. Video time. This is where I have to pause. I have to mute my microphone, otherwise you'll hear it double because it'll come through my microphone. So I'm going to play it. I will skip part. It's quite a long video, so I will skip part of the science part of the payload, the on-orbit mid-deck experiments, and just move on to the bulk of the mission, such as the launch, the MMU untethered spacewalk, and the landing. So we'll keep it down to about 10 minutes or so. So bear with us while we play this video, but it is a cool video.
Our patch, the hardest thing in the whole mission was to figure out what the patch was going to be like. And the night before launch, going out, launch morning, after breakfast, everybody anxious to get strapped into the vehicle. We did have to get used to getting up very early to support the early schedule. The pad 39, beautiful scene, the orbiter, launch morning, coming up to thrust, 3 main engines igniting, 1.5 million pounds of thrust roughly here, then plus the SRBs, 4.4 million pounds of vehicle pushed by roughly 7 million pounds of thrust. It was an exciting ride for us. There was a lot of racket, shake, rattle, and roll here. Very rapid turn, or roll maneuver, that is, to head downrange. I think everybody really enjoyed this first stage flight.
That's the camera doing that. That wasn't us.
Sort of thing you'd like.
On the first day, it was our first major activity, and things ticked along quite well throughout the entire deploy. These are the final moments of terminal sequence. All the spacecraft is armed, the deployment is armed, and we see a perfectly smooth deployment, stable satellite. All systems just looked perfect, and we were absolutely pleased with what we saw with the West Star deployment. We tracked it out for many, many minutes after the deploy.
Burn right here, that ring that you see going out, we started thinking something is wrong, but on board we just didn't want to let ourselves believe that it had happened to us twice in a row. So we just watched this thing go dimmer and dimmer, hoping that we had lost it in a cloud of rocket exhaust or something like that. And we stayed on this picture for quite some time afterward, looking for some indication that the motor was still burning.
Might add that we used the RMS camera to pick up that burn on the last sequence as we watch Vance, Bruce, the mid-deck, floating around the cockpit.
The alien creeping into the picture at the upper.
And we got to look at what it looks like with Bruce and Bob doing their equipment prep, EMU preps for the EVA.
Preparation for the EVA went all very well, completely nominal. All the there are many, many more checkouts.
So Vance could keep an eye on where we were. Basically, we were very pleased with the way the MMU handled. It was very much like the simulations at the Martin Company in Denver, except that we did find that when translating with the attitude hull system activated, since we had built it to conserve propellant by turning some of the thrusters off if you started to pick up a rotational rate. This hadn't been modeled in detail in the simulator. You got an averaged response, and of course here you could feel every little thruster coming on and off. But other than that, the flying characteristics were virtually identical to the simulator, and of course here we had complete freedom to turn somersaults and maneuver about all three rotational axes, and actually the orbital mechanics were much more realistic, and of course the quality of the visuals, that is the scene, was a lot higher here than in any simulator. Here I am, I guess, backing out to 150 feet, coming back in, and then out to 300 and coming back in. This is approximately the same sort of translation that the folks on the next mission, the Solar Maximum Repair mission, will be faced with in moving from the orbiter over to the Solar Maximum spacecraft.
It was interesting seeing Bob and Bruce go out to 300 yards. We had some qualms about it before the flight. We were concerned to have a naturally human being out that far untethered, but we had backup procedures to go get them if anything went wrong with their equipment. So by the time flight came along, we were quite happy with the idea, and it turned out to be not bad in practice.
Yeah, this is some footage.
The forward bulkhead of the payload bay, and it took some little acrobatics to see those guys when they're positioned that far forward in the payload bay. But it worked out quite smoothly, and we were able to get them positioned exactly where they wanted to go. And that manipulated foot restraint turns out to be a very convenient, useful workstation.
And to stabilize a large variety of satellites also to make it easier for the RMS to grab them. We exercised both the primary one, which is sticking straight out, and the secondary one, which is 90 degrees down from the primary one, and basically are very happy that they function in the manner in which they're intended. Bob has pointed out there is no up and
Hoot and Ron and I were inside during all this time. Hoot was taking care of the ship. Any little problem that came up with the ship's systems, he got a lot of good photography. You'll see the stills later. I think he'll probably be Photographer of the Year based on some of those great EVA stills.
bringing it within my grasp there.
That's right. Here we're closing the payload bay doors. About time to come home. We had spent nearly 8 days in orbit. You can see the doors are very flexible. They worked beautifully. As a matter of fact, we thought the orbiter had a few minor things go wrong, but they were only minor. It just performed magnificently.
We're coming up on the entry sequence, and what you're going to see right away, we are on the dark side of the Earth, but the sky around us is glowing red from the heat of re-entry as we're coming down.
Sort of like being inside a blast furnace.
That's the view. What you're seeing is out the windows of the orbiter, and this is the very hot plasma surrounding the orbiter as we come back down.
We saw that from about 24 times the speed of sound down to 11 times the speed of sound. And here we are coming over Florida. The long-range camera's on us. The body flap is down quite a long ways. The machine is still supersonic. And now you can see the underside. Looks like an arrowhead, which is has very small wings for such a big vehicle. Here we are coming around the hack, as we call it, a circle to line up for the straightaway, just prior to landing at Kennedy Space Center.
That runway didn't look near as big from there, by the way, as it had looked from on the ground.
These are lights that we use for lineup. We also have automatic guidance on board that helps us, but of course, we were manually flying the machine from about 9/10 Mach number on down.
Yeah, Vance won't say so, but as you see on the second, 2 red and 2 white lights means you're right on the glide path. He did a super job of bringing the airplane in and landing it.
It was,
two red and two white.
I think it was a real thrill for all of us. We really enjoyed being able to come into the Cape. On the left, you see another light used for reference. Here are the gears coming down. Hoot put it down at about 400 feet. The ground cameras have us coming over the threshold here. A little bit of ground fog, but not enough to bother. Streamers coming off the wingtips.
We're going to make them red and blue for the next mission.
And the nose coming down, and then braking. We just did light braking. We used up a large part of the runway, but we didn't really need to. We really enjoyed it on orbit. I wasn't sure at one point we were going to get Bob and Bruce in from the second EVA because they just wanted to stay out there so that we could come home like this.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like this one because I think it's the best one so far. There's better ones to come, believe me, showing the actual landing. So I really like this one because it just showed a lot more footage, especially with it coming back to KSC, so there are more assets to film it as well. But yeah, again, beautiful landing photographs here. Really are stunning. I don't think we'll ever get bored of seeing these views. We actually have some questions, but before we go on to this next mission, but unless you got any points to make, sorry, look at that one.
I do actually. Um, that landing, there was some concern about it as it was coming back in because earlier on in the mission, the nozzles that supplied the supply and wastewater vent systems froze. So the water dump valve failed to open. So that meant they got excess water out through the flash evaporating, which was fine until it turns out that frozen dump valve that failed had icicles sticking off of it that smacked right near or smacked the left ohm spot, damaged some TPS tiles, and actually led to a burn through. So thankfully they made it through okay, but there was that concern for landing. But as you saw, a perfect touchdown, thankfully.
There we go. Let's take. I'm leaving this photograph up because I love this photograph. While I take some questions, right? Floor Perspective asks, why is it called payload?
Because you pay a load to get it into space.
There's a pun there, isn't there? I've always just called it payload. I wonder, maybe it is because it is a load you take into space and you pay for it. I mean, it might be just as sorry it says it. I'm still thinking that. I'm so used to saying the word. I've just never thought about it too much. Also mentions a fun fact: the RMS used tech from the lunar landing legs. Do you remember
I
that,
guess it
Sawyer?
was part of the maybe in some of the manipulator joints. I don't actually know. I know that the RMS again had a couple little issues with its wrist joint during this one, but you saw the camera shots from the end of the end effector, the grappling point of the arm. And that those are so cool.
Adrian's telling me off for talking about football. Listen to football chat. I would watch football. I would be watching it's not Shuttle Sunday. You know what? Imagine if I'd cancelled the Shuttle Sunday, so I'm going to watch it. Nah, Shuttle comes
No
first.
way.
Shuttle comes first. Jason asks, are you guys still thinking of doing a shuttle launch in real time? Oh yes, absolutely. I'm still
Mhm.
thinking STS-93
I
because
think
there's
so
just
too.
so much went on with that. You could really make a big thing out of it, but especially the later missions where there's a lot more good video, a lot more assets we can use, and really make it a full countdown and mission, at least the launch part, and just do it as if it's happening that day. Do it live. I think it's doable. I think it'd be really cool. But we're going to plan it out properly and make sure we don't make a mess of it. Because we'll probably do like a dry run of the assets we've got and then make sure we can definitely push it live. And if we did it live, I think it'd be a dedicated stream. Just something different. There's so many things going on that we never really get time. But we will find time for that because I think it's a good idea. And I think it is. This is why we do Shuttle Sunday. It's not for the views because we're not going to get many views for this. We don't do it for that. We do it because we want to do it. It's an important part of history and especially the site as well because we started as a shuttle site. So it's so important that we don't just say, well, let's just think about what there's lots of numbers. Let's just do Starship from now on. It wouldn't be right. So I think it's very important we do that. And that's why I want to fit in that live mission.
By the way, just
Yes.
update to the question about payload. It turns out my pun was correct. It actually originates from freight loads, so trains, trucks, boats, specifically the amount of paying load that could be carried.
I wonder if that's double points. A pun that's also a fact. I think that's double points.
I'll
Double
take
points for
it.
Sawyer. Yes. Matt, one of our great supporters, Matt asks, didn't they have the HUD in the cockpit at that time? Now, am I thinking glass cockpit is when they had the HUD, the heads-up display, or was it before that? You know what? My mind's gone.
Unless it came on first during Discovery. I think at this point,
Yeah.
I don't know if Challenger had it at that point.
You know what, Matt? That's a great question. My mind went to, okay, maybe they only brought it in for the glass cockpit modification, which we'll be coming up to in a future Shuttle Sunday. But I do also kind of remember it before then for some reason. We will find out. That's a good question. Six String Simpleton, that was a great name because it always makes my mouth go weird. What's the landing speed? I'm thinking 230 knots was the average. What can you remember what the average speed was for landing? I'm sure it was 230 knots ish.
I think it was around 250, but yeah, somewhere around that 230 to 250 range. It was, I believe, uh, 7 times steeper approach than an airliner and 3 times faster.
Yeah. I've seen so many landing videos. You can actually see, as we're talking about the HUDs, you can see the speed to come down, and it's not the same every single time. There's differences, as you can imagine, with such a high energy return that they have to get it to a point where they've got a single landing attempt. It's incredible that all landings came off. I think it still is incredible to this day that things like the landing gear always deployed. There's so many things that could have gone wrong at landing, and they all worked. The tires, we had a few pop tires, but nothing dramatic, nothing that caused the space shuttle to go off the side of the runway. So it was quite incredible the amount of landing success they had with the vehicle. Floor Perspective
Shout out to
also
Goodyear.
mentions, yeah, Floor Perspective also mentions that both made by Spar Aerospace in Canada. Again, Canada so involved in the space program, it's crazy. And Austin brings up the fact now we can get to see plasma outside with Starship, which is crazy. I like that point. It's not a question, it's a point, and I like it because with the space shuttle, we will see a lot of videos, a lot of footage from inside the flight deck of re-entry, seeing it from what looks like out of the cockpit, out of the windows, but not an external camera. With Starship, we're seeing the external camera on the flaps of what it's like coming through plasma and all the way down as well, which is absolutely bonkers. It really is. And you can see how much we've seen from the previous flight and the last flight, how much they've improved because obviously Starship did a better job coming back down. We saw so much more of it. We saw all the colors. We saw all the sparks. You will see on some videos we'll show on the space shuttle program. When I saw the sparks on Starship, I'm going to rabbit hole. Forgive me here, sorry. When we saw the sparks on the camera view of Starship, people were like, "That's not right." Actually, we've seen sparks before with the space shuttle, but we've only seen it from inside the cockpit on the flight deck, looking through the aft windows and seeing the sparks flying over the rudder speed brake. And that was something that instantly reminded me of that. And I thought, that's amazing. I'm seeing it real time from outside this time there. It's beautiful. Really was stunning. Right. Next mission.
Also, by the way, really quick, the heads-up display answer, as
Yes.
someone pointed out in chat, they are correct. The first orbiter to have the HUD was Challenger, which I guess came after Columbia's first couple flights as they were repurposing and upgrading it. They gave it the heads-up display. So when Columbia was taken out of commission for a while to get upgrades, which is basically the entirety of now until like the 23rd or 24th mission, that's when they added the HUD to that, and I believe Discovery and Atlantis came with it pre-installed. But yeah, Challenger was the first to have the HUD and the first to go to 104%.
There we go. Little factoids. Next mission. STS-41C. Again, another beautiful patch. Really is. I mean, the colors and just the way I don't know how to describe it. I'm not an artistic person, but it is beautifully done. Really is. But there's also a fun patch, which I think Sawyer might appreciate. Black Cat. We think that was actually sent to us. It was not a photograph. It's an actual patch from the flight control team. They were literally had their own patches for things like that. There's a lot of naming schemes that go on at Mission Control, and a lot of this is related to like almost like metals and jewels and things like that. And this one was related to a patch which was related to the control team, but they were called 13, the Black Cat. I don't know the full history of it. I just know that was passed on to us, but I thought it was really cool. And I thought Sawyer would appreciate it.
Oh yeah, and they landed, by the way, on April 13th, which was
There we
also
go.
the anniversary
I
of Apollo 13, if I recall.
Yeah. Oh, so look at this, by the way. Again, a crew portrait, but a really cool one. A
Yeah,
really
get to
cool one
use
with the
that
background there.
MMU again.
Yeah, really is. And this one had a very fun-looking payload. Look at this. We've got lots of
Yep.
photographs on mission. Maybe you want to. We can talk about it now, so if you want.
The LDEF, I will
Mhm.
definitely talk about it. That is the
Oh,
sorry.
it's all right. You're
the
allowed puns for coming on.
the long duration exposure facility. So that was a way that they could basically have things in the payload bay, grab it with the robotic arm, kind of just leave it out there, and then grab it and bring it back in and do their research with it.
Very cool. Let's
So
go through
that
all these preparation because we've got a lot of this picture. Look at this. This is so it shows
yeah,
the size of it for a start.
yeah. By the way, that was 57 experiments on that one thing.
Wow. It's a bit like they've got on the outside of the ISS, but much smaller. They've got like those pallets of almost like individual experiments for the exposure in space, which they then bring in on an EVA after a while, so that they can bring them back down to Earth. In this case, it would be on a cargo dragon, something like that, and then they can look at the results from it. And I've seen a lot of those kind of like multicolored pallets that are on the outside during EVAs, which is really kind of cool. But
But
there's a much larger version.
I think it's worth noting also that this mission deployed it, but did not bring it back. That was originally going to
No,
happen in mid 1986, or scheduled for 85, delayed to mid 86, and then Challenger happened. So it didn't get retrieved till STS 32 in 1990.
there we go. More factoids. This was where they really went big with the IMAX. Let me try and get onto the part where here we are. This is the crew training on the IMAX. So the
Look
crew
at
had
the
to train on
size
the
of that.
IMAX camera. I know the size of that thing. I mean, that is something to take up with them as well. Lots of photographs here. Look, there's Mr. Crippen. Learned how to reload the film. These are really old photographs, by the way.
Yep, that
There we
was
go. That's
the.
cool.
Uh, I believe that there were two cameras. One of them provided by Cinema 360. That was the one that we saw on 41B. So basically, super ultra wide angle lens, and then filmed in 360. And the second one was that giant IMAX camera with the 70 millimeter film. It was the first of three shuttle flights that were originally planned to carry IMAX per the original 1984 press release.
Very cool. This is an artistic impression of the work that we're going to do on this mission, which is Solar Max, isn't it? So we'll come up to that when we go on to the mission thing, because that'll be on the. That's almost like cheeky previews. Look at this. This is great. Little like old-fashioned graphics. This is before the CGI and the renders they'd put out. This is where they literally would draw the missions. Really cool. Look at the old style. Look at this with the NASA
Oh,
on the back. This is real old school. You can imagine this being done before the space shuttle program had started launching. Like this was a planned mission for the future, and they'd done those renders then.
those are
Really
Mickey
cool.
ears, not Ohm's pods.
I know it's like it's slightly off, isn't it? But also kind of
Yeah.
sexy. I must admit, I do
Yeah.
like it. There's the payload again, and there's payload bay. Right, so that is a preparation folder. Let's go back up to the launch folder. So we've got some lovely photographs again, as you'd expect, of launch. Again, still 39A, still looking a little bit not there yet. Still looking like it's still got some Saturn era with it, but it's still very cool to see. And again, beautiful photographs. I, I show friends who are not into spaceflight, they like Starship because it's big and it makes a lot of noise, but they love Shuttle because it looks beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think that is something that always comes across. By the way, Bird, didn't even notice that first time round. Bird at the top.
Burp.
Again, again, these are like from the 80s, but they're still beautiful photographs.
So
We need to
crisp.
bring a sorry. I was going to say we need to bring a photographer on. Sawyer, you're a photographer. What kind of camera would you use for this? For it seems like the older photographs have got like a different kind of like feel to them. Am I correct in
Well,
thinking that?
I think the difference is that they're shot on film as opposed to digital. That makes a huge
Ah,
difference. That's why you can see a little bit of the noise in it, which normally we try and remove in post. But in this, it's just print it and enlarge it, and you don't really get to do much with it. So, kind of has to be perfectly shot. And NASA had a whole bank of cameras on 3 different mounds that were mounted around 39A and B, essentially in, like, hardened mailboxes is the best way to describe it, where they had these automatically triggered cameras that were synced to the mission clock that would fire and take these shots.
very nice. Again, another beautiful photograph there, and I know I've got one of the high
Oh,
altitude ones
scuttlebutt.
again. There it is. This is cool because you get not just 39B and 39A, but you also get the crawl away, and you also get the VAB and the KSC area there, and the turn base and there. And you can see the OPFs. They haven't started building the OPFs yet. Have a look at this. That's where the OPFs are normally, aren't they? Around here. So
Yeah,
that's yet to be done. I like to bring
and
up my favorite thing, Sawyer. My favorite thing.
what you
Here we
got?
go. So you turn, you can go forward, you can go straight
Oh,
on to 39A, you can go left, and you go all the way to 39B, which is there. There was going to be a 39C, and that's where the junction was. And
mhm.
it's a road to nowhere, and I love going on Google Maps, just looking around, and it's still there. They've not like covered it up. It's not been grown over or anything like that. It's still there. It's like a little road to nowhere, and that's where it would have gone to the eventual 39C, which would have been over here, for the expanded von Braun program, which was basically going to take it to Mars, which never actually occurred. Of course, as we all know, stating the obvious there, but that's what they were going to do. They're going to have up to 39E, I think, at one point. That was the plan.
I
The
believe they
mission.
actually, store some of the crawlaway rocks there currently, and I have a I think it's a Life magazine or a Time magazine, one of them from the 1965 that showed 39A through F animated up on the cover.
Wow. Through F as well. That's crazy.
Yeah, there were
Right.
6 pads with, Saturn V's on them.
Which ironically is what LC-49 could be if they ever get it off the ground. LC-49 for Starship is planned to be 6 towers for Starship. I am digressing from Shuttle, but I don't care because we mentioned launch pads. LC-49 is not killed off yet. It's just on the back burner because having a problem with the environmental part of it. So they're probably going to go to 37B next for the next tower for Starship. But if they ever bring up LC-49, I have it on very good authority from someone who knows what he's talking about at KSC that there would be 6 towers at LC-49 for Starship. 6 towers. That is going to be something else if that ever becomes real. Right, back on submission. Let's go into the payloads. Let's go into the actual mission itself. There's lots of photographs here. I'm going to go through and see which ones are. That's an interesting one. There we go. Look at this.
Oh.
EVA. And that's the payload. Maybe Sawyer wants to talk about the payload.
Yeah, it obviously went up with one payload and then had a different one for a return, and that is the Solar Max satellite, as you see right there. Um, So that satellite kind of malfunctioned in orbit. So they sent a repair crew, which kind of ended up being like the precursor to the Hubble repair missions that we would later see.
Yeah.
They went to try and capture it on flight day 3 and kind of had some issues with it. They got close, um, but didn't quite work exactly right. But they did manage to grapple it, and then the crew got to work flying out to the satellite with the help of the MMUs. Uh, used a special capture tool to grab it, clamped it on eventually, and in doing so, kind of caused the whole spacecraft to tumble.
I'm so
So
glad you mentioned a precursor to Hubble because as soon as I saw that photograph, I thought that reminds me of like a mini version of the Hubble capture. Look at the mule, kind of the mule version they've got there to capture it on, and the way that the EVA was, that's like on the end of the arm and it's basically just hanging around the satellite itself. It just reminded me of a mini Hubble kind of like servicing mission. So it's really cool that you brought it up. Lots
it
more
was a
photographs. Yes, sorry.
I mean, what's impressive with this thing also is that, with Hubble, it was kind of stationary. They had to grapple this one while it was spinning. So after the issues with that first attempt, the team down at Goddard was able to stabilize it, but it was still spinning just at a regular rate. So they moved the shuttle over to Solar Max and had to grapple it with the RMS, the shuttle arm.
Yep. I know I've got a good foot. Oh, by the way, this bees on orbit. Bees.
Yeah, there were about 3,000 bees on there.
Yeah, that looks like fun. Luckily, that container never let. Imagine if that container broke. That would not be fun. So luckily, that obviously worked. There's lots of experiments in missions to come, all the way through to the likes of mice and all sorts of creepy crawlies that we should have Adrian on as a guest because I'm sure he'd really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. By the
Here
way,
we
you
go,
know who
Sawyer.
sponsored that experiment really quick?
Yeah,
And this is an unintentional pun. Um, Honeywell.
really.
Legitimate.
Oh my word! They've done their
Picked
own
a better
pun on
sponsor.
purpose. That's
Yes,
amazing.
Honeywell sponsored the bees.
Oh my word, that is amazing. Right, here we go. Ace Satellite Repair Company. That's the name of the company that was sent up there on the space shuttle program. They completely made it up, of course. But that is, you can see a bit of fun there. They're all enjoying it. So that was always an iconic. I've seen that photograph so many times. That's nothing new, but it's just cool to bring it up because it is kind of fun that he used the Ace company name on a lot of things. There's an Ace Moving Company photograph where they do that as well. Here we go. IMAX time again. Installed on the aft
Small.
windows in the flight deck. Yeah, really cool. Here we're getting some photographs of that's the MMU and there's Solar Max, I believe.
Yes.
A nice picture of Solar Max there. And there's
Wow.
the look at this. It's again amazing photographs. That is a beautiful photograph.
The
People think
elbow.
that's a render.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a photograph again. 80s. It's the quality of it. It's beautiful. There's the IMAX camera again. And I believe I've got one more. There we go. That's from a bit out of order, but that's fine. I do believe now we should bring up the video because if I can find it, 1 second. There we go. The video, again, it's a very long one, so I'll be skipping through the main parts here for brevity's point, but obviously we'll then have the landing photographs. But this is, again, another cool video. These videos I keep playing on these Shuttle Sundays, they're actually the crew talking about the mission, post-mission after landing, and just reviewing the mission. It's a rare thing. I think they stopped kind of doing it properly at some point, but the older missions all have these. So while they do have these videos, I'll keep playing them because I think no one can tell you about the mission more than the actual crew themselves. So bear with me. I'll be muting my microphone again so you don't get a double echo.
Am I the only one not hearing any sounds?
No sound. What's going on? Everything is playing fine on my end, Jay. I wonder if I'm going to have to close this and redo it. Bear with me, folks, while I try and do some technicals, which is never going to be amusing, but I'm going to play it again. And if you hear it this time, let me know.
Play it again, Sam.
The ascent portion of our mission. The countdown of the cage just went flawless.
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Nozzles vibrate the engine.
No, only hear it through my microphone. That's going to be fun. So for some reason, although I've done nothing different, it's not working on the audio side. So how about I talk over as we go through it, unless Jay can think of something. Because I've not changed anything, Jay, from the last video. I'm literally playing the next video along. And there is audio here, and I don't see anything changed on the volume settings or anything like that. I will give Jay one final chance before I play this video, and I'll just talk through it.
Yep, and for those of you watching the replay, this is why it's live.
Talk over it, Jay says. Fair enough. Right, you might actually hear in the background some of the audio anyway, which would be quite fun. But this is the launch, obviously. Really cool. I might pass on any wisdom knowledge they pass on to me as I'm actually listening to the video at the same time. You never
If I
know,
can
the video
think of
might
any
start
fun facts,
working.
I'll help you out too.
The one of the
Jay's working on it at the same time. If you're listening back to the recording of this video and thinking, who's these idiots? It's just me. I'm doing the OBS, and that's why.
Wow, Bob Crippen sounds a lot like he's from York.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah, that'd be great. So that's the launch part of it. Anyway, they're on orbit here. Again, the old flight deck.
Here on day 3, and
Moving through. Here we go. MMU time
There's
again.
day 3.
Yeah.
This is where things literally go out of control.
From my standpoint of watching the satellite and watching Pinky do the flyover, just like we planned it.
I know Floor Perspective asks a question as well at the same time while we're watching this. Do you have the launch frog pick? That was not a shuttle mission. That was a Wallops mission. I think it was was it a Minotaur? I think it was
It
Laddie
was
mission.
Laddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I stood corrected. It was Space Bat that I was thinking of. That was the one that attached to the external tank.
Ah.
Flying up on the
Space Frog
satellite.
was Wallops.
So just like we've done in the simulator.
That's a really cool picture of the
All the way
MMU
up
going
to
out
the
to
point
Solamax.
Yeah, we're so used to seeing the Bruce McCandless picture that
The CPAD hits that
this is
pin,
someone
they
floating
roll
away
down
from the
to
shuttle to grapple a satellite.
That's a view from the helmet mounted camera.
And that's the helmet cam.
It's crazy. Again, they don't do this now.
Satellite initially was rotating at about.
I don't think they've get permission to do it now. They have the safers on the EMUs. So if the tether, which it should be always tethered, if the tether broke on the ISS spacewalk and they start floating away from the ISS, they can fire jets. They've got a safer jets. Nothing like this, but the same kind of idea, and that would push them back to the ISS and they can grapple back onto the handlebars. So it literally is like a safer unit version of this, but not for the actual EVA itself. It's not for purpose, it's primary use.
Right, and safer, it's in the name, the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue. Meant for rescue, not for this one, which was literally the maneuvering unit.
Doesn't have any reason to think it'd work any better. We did have a rotating grapple up our sleeve.
I'm watching Jay type in the background at the same time to see if he's worked out why it's not working this time for the audio.
We can hear some of it coming through at least.
Good try, refresh. Does that mean me to do something, Jay, or this has gone chaos? We've had so many good Shuttle Sundays, and suddenly this one goes wrong. Ah, Jay's gonna
Well,
try
it's perfect, because that's the one where the grapple goes wrong.
it. Yes, on topic.
You see it spinning in the videos, too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We all thought we had it stabilized, but there was some energy in there someplace.
Now it basically it stopped rotating in the pitch and yaw axes, and the only thing we had going was the.
Right, let's try and bring this up a little bit further because there's a lot of video. Oh, bees!
Not the bees. Yeah, 3,300 bees.
Wow. From Honeywell. Oh, forget that in a rush.
Sponsored by. Sponsored
Amazing.
by Honeywell.
I thought you were joking. I honestly thought you were joking, Sawyer.
No, from the original press release, it was the experiment proposed by a student at Tennessee Tech Institute in Cookeville, Tennessee. Honeywell Inc. Minneapolis is sponsoring the experiment.
That is crazy.
The only films we got of the
Right, here we go. Solamax time.
ACS module. We did most of it in the evening there before we came up to the light.
These guys were going so fast we couldn't take any pictures. Slow down, we'll get some sunlight.
The big blue tool there is the module servicing tool. This is like a big.
They do a lot of talking about this. I want to bring up to the end of this mission because it's more cool return footage on this mission. They'll let go of the payload there. That's Solamax released.
Yeah, those grapple fixtures, by the way, looked the same all the way through the end of the shuttle program.
I'm going to go back a bit because we have a shuttle kitchen. The shuttle kitchen. Canteen on mid-deck. That would be luxury compared to what they used to during the Apollo program and all those small capsules. Obviously, Skylab would have been pretty good, but
Yeah, just add warm water and eat.
yep. Let it float up to your mouth. It looks quite good. They've got a nice selection of food, I must admit.
It looks like
Ah, sure
macaroni
enough.
and cheese for a
Show
moment.
off here. Oh, dearie me. That was inappropriate. Look at this.
Oh, goodness gracious. Demonetized.
Yeah, this crew is having fun. Right, return time. See the old blue flight suits there, which were not much use in the event of a problem.
And the helmet. That's about it. And
Yeah.
the old CRTs and manual dials
Any
there,
16
the physical
millimeter
dials.
motion picture
There's
camera
re-entry
video
footage. Now, this is the sparks you'll see of the rudder speed brake. I don't know if you've got any sparks in this one, but there's definitely sparks on a lot of missions we've got coming up, where
'Cause
you'll
this is the
see it's very
tail.
much like Starship. That's the rudders, yeah, basically. And you can see there, this is again, it's all we've had so far before Starship was internal views, not the external camera. There is no external cameras filming the return through plasma on a space shuttle. Never was. So that's why it was so unique seeing it on Starship for the first time.
Still wonder if there was a camera in the
vehicle.
Silts pod. I really wonder.
Yeah, we've never seen it. I mean,
Nope.
I could ask. Around, see if anyone has seen that at some point.
That would be unbelievable.
Pick up much
Mhm.
many landmarks visually until we came overhead Edwards. About 45,000 feet, we began to pick up normal landmarks. There's deploying the gear at about 300 feet.
Coming in for landing.
7. And that all went very nominal as far as we were concerned.
While we're doing this, Matt's asked, why did they use the MMU so little when it was it so dangerous? Hang on. So little, was it too dangerous? Okay. Well, they wouldn't have done it if it was too dangerous. But again, they've not done it since, have they? It's something that was unique at the time and it never really caught on. So I wonder if they thought the risk eventually became too much to keep using it. But
The problem is that they were gonna add the attachment to it. You could see it in his hand as he was going towards Solar Max, that they tried to attach and failed 3 times and then caused the satellite to spin out of control. Then they just moved the shuttle over and grappled it with the robot arm spinning, so they kinda realized, "You know what? We can do this without putting people's lives at risk. Let's just grapple everything."
yeah. There we go. So that's that mission done as well. And we actually made it the hour this time round, which was quite good timing. It worked out quite well. But yeah, that's been the latest Space Shuttle Sunday. I'm going to bring up the title screen one more time to end this properly. There we go. That's the title screen for this one. Thanks to Brady for doing the thumbnails for these, because it's nice for a thumbnail just to tie in the start and the end of the Space Shuttle Sunday. But first and foremost, thanks for everyone joining us. It's very much appreciated that you are interested in the Space Shuttle, because I know most of you will be probably into what we do because of the new vehicles. I know there's quite a nice little groundswell of shuttle interest from previous days and our earlier days as a site, but the channel has been very much kind of started because of Starbase, because of Mary, and has continued basically covering as many things as we can, but obviously primarily Starship. That's why we've got cameras on land out there, for pity's sake. It's crazy. So thanks for all of you being interested in that. I just
Now we hear the audio.
yeah, Jay, now we hear the audio. I finished playing the video.
A little crackly, but yeah, better
There
late
we
than
go.
never.
That's fun. Anyway, but thanks first and foremost for joining us, Sawyer. Very much appreciate your knowledge and insight.
My absolute pleasure. I'm really excited for the next one, STS-41D, because not only is it the first flight of the Space Shuttle Discovery, it is also the flight with the Peacicle. What does that
Yeah.
mean? You'll have to tune in.
You have to tune in to find out. Oh my word. But yes, very much appreciate everyone joining us, and thanks for listening to us ramble on about a Space Shuttle program for this long, which we like to do because it's always very fun and interesting. But until next time, thanks for joining us and goodbye.